Hello and welcome to World History e-learning for March 26th. We are going to get into the United States entering the war today, and then ultimately, how does World War One end? First off, want to examine a little bit about why it is that the United States chose to stay out of the war as long as we did. The first one had to do with profiteering. We were remaining neutral. We are staying out because we were essentially making money off of both sides. As long as we didn't pick a side, we could sell things to use in the war to both sides. So no matter how much Europe wanted to beat each other up, we were ultimately going to make money off of it. So it made sense for us not to pick a side as long as possible. Another reason was ethnicity. If you look at the United States, we are a country that is made up of people from other parts of the world. Because we're made up of people from other parts of the world, that means that if we choose a side, if we say we are supporting the Allies, for example, that means that there's going to be a certain percentage of the U.S. population that is going to be upset about that. Not wanting to alienate people within our own country, we decided it was in our best interest to stay out as long as possible. In addition to that, we were also going through a period of isolation. If you look throughout US history, we go through stages. We go through a stage where we're all about ourselves, we've got our own problems, we're going to deal with us. And then we turn and we decide that, okay, now we're going to pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the world. And then we come back to ourselves, and then we go to the rest of the world, we come back to ourselves, we go to the rest of the world. This process repeats itself over and over and over again. So we were in a period of isolationism at that point. So it just made sense that we're going to work on us. Okay, so now why do we get involved in World War One? There's no one reason. There's no Pearl Harbor that makes it all happen. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and there's going to be multiple things that are going to happen. First thing is going to be the sinking of the Lusitania. Lusitania was a British passenger ship, was sailing from New York City to the United Kingdom. Germans actually suspected that it was carrying weapons. It was carrying weapons for the Allies. They actually put ads in newspapers in New York City saying, "Hey, this is what we suspect. Don't get on the Lusitania. Don't sail on it because that is, we're looking for it." Ultimately, it does wind up being sunk by a German submarine. There were a lot of people that had a lot of problems with the way the Germans were using their submarines, and ultimately, a lot of American citizens died. Now, it turns out that we know now that, yeah, that's exactly what they were carrying, and the Germans were 100% right. But because the Lusitania sank, Americans died, reason for us to get involved in the war. Enough for us to get involved right now? Not quite so much. That happened on May 7th, 1915. And then in January of 1917, we had this thing called the Zimmerman Telegram. Zimmerman Telegram was a note that it was a message from Germany to Mexico. They wanted to get Mexico to attack the United States because if we're fighting against Mexico, then we're not fighting in Europe. Ultimately, Mexico decided that, well, it's not worth it. They were being offered that after the war was over in Europe, they would come over here and they would help them recover these lands from us. Ultimately, Mexico said no. We found out about the note, and it was just another reason why we would get involved against Germany. Nationalism, we've talked about this previously, the idea that, hey, our way of life is better than your way of life. We wanted to spread that. That would be a reason for us to get involved. And then finally, morality. Again, we've talked about this before, the idea that, hey, it's the right thing to do to get involved and help the damsel in distress, Europe. We have to do our part.